3 weeks, 3 painful losses, 2 of which came against the best team in the competition, the best teams in the competition, and 1 against a team that has seriously underperformed. But is it a loss that could have been avoided? This week against Port Adelaide was frustrating to say the least. I think from the top down, and certainly from my point of view, starting with selection and with the way the game panned out. But another chance to redeem ourselves against an upstart team this year, the West Coast Eagles. And here to discuss all the topics of the week and all things Collingwood with me, I have the lovely Magpie girl.
Hi, Mighty T.
How are you this evening?
I'm excellent, thank you.
Fresh off your birthday celebrations, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, I know. Look, they continued today, so I've been very lucky. I've gone from Tuesday night to today. It's nothing like having a birthday over 3 days.
Over 3 days. Well, what a way to celebrate your 30th birthday. That's excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And also joining us from a little ways away from home, we have Laurie Holden, who doesn't usually say a lot, but I think tonight he's decided to grace us with his presence on the mic. How are you, Laurie?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Another day in paradise. Of course, Gone Critical is living the dream, still over in Africa, I believe, thoroughly enjoying himself. We're looking forward to getting him back and saying a cheerio to him in the next week or two. But let's get on to some footy matters now. Obviously, Magpie Girl, a heartbreaking loss for us. Sort of difficult to swallow, given how well we had played the previous 2 weeks and then how we started the game. How did you see the game against Port and how it unfolded?
Well, it was difficult watching that first quarter, wasn't it? They just got a jump on us and we looked very lost and unable to find any answers. It was great that they clawed their way back. And I think that's probably the thing that I take out of the win, you know, that, and probably all 3 of them actually, that at no stage have they just laid down and you know, been run over in each game. They've either fought back or kept abreast of the other team and the pressure that's being applied and really fought it out to the very end. So I take a lot of heart from that. It is disappointing. I loved Swanee's line that I'd like a dishonourable win for a change.
Yeah.
Instead of an honourable loss. That about sums it up, I think. But yeah, disappointing. I don't know. I don't know. Did we really? I suppose we expected to win last week in view of Port's form, but you know, when teams are playing for emotions, the way Port were, you know, it does tend to bring something out in the side, I think.
And you've touched on a couple of things there that I will expand on in a bit of a negative light in terms of the way Collingwood prepared for the game. But on the positives, you know, I think I really do agree with you there. At no point this year, even in the big loss, you know, the relatively big loss to Adelaide and against Geelong, and now against Port, coming back from that deficit, we've shown heart, we've shown character, we've shown a will to compete and fight, and try and get ourselves back into the contest. I think against Geelong we got within 4 goals or 3 goals at one point. So look, that's certainly something to take out of it. You know, our year is currently being built on, I think, the strength of character in the list, and a very strong, never say die attitude, high effort, and that was certainly on display for the next 3 quarters. I mean, I think they kicked 6 in the first quarter. I think they kicked 12 for the game. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that certainly is a positive for me. And you're right, and Port were obviously playing with a bit of emotional baggage. They had, a bit more impetus to win than generally, accessible. Sometimes it's hard to motivate people in a certain way. This would have been, very readily fresh in their minds. And us Collingwood supporters would know what that's like, and our players know what that's like after John McCarthy passed a couple of years back, and we came out and tore it up on a final and let that carry us to victory, I think, in a lot of respects.
Yeah,
Um,
you only had to look at the coach after the game. I mean, he was in tears
yeah,
in that immediate post match interview. I think, to Port's credit, they held it all together and played a fantastic game, and and they did do it for Phil Walsh. So, kudos to them. We didn't have quite the same connect, or our boys didn't have quite the same connection. So, even though there was a club connection, that emotion does count for a lot. But I still take heart from the fact that the team fought it out, and it was close. I mean, it was 3 points. So every week it's a little closer.
yeah.
Yeah, I think too we so quickly lose sight of what our initial expectations were for the year, because each week the expectation builds, and we tend to get a little bit ahead of ourselves, I think, and so these close losses are even more frustrating and painful.
Yeah. And look, I think given where we came from last season, every supporter would have looked at these 3 weeks in a row, scratched them off the fixture and said, right, put a line through these. We can't win these 3 games. 3 of the top 4 sides of last year. This is sort of out of our reach. And to get within reach of all 3, I think definitely speaks to the improvement that we've made. And that's obviously a positive and something to hang our hat on. But as Swanee would say, these honourable losses, you'd rather have a dishonourable win than an honourable loss. And unfortunately, especially for a young team, reward for effort is so crucial. I want to go back to what you said before. Obviously, the relative ladder position of the 2 teams isn't really indicative of both of our skills. Port is still a very good side. And we do forget maybe that 12 months ago they were knocking on a top 2 spot and pushed Hawthorn in a preliminary final within a goal. So they are a good football side that hasn't done very well this year. But I want to take a bit of a harder, slightly more journalistic edge just to my next couple of questions. And maybe, Laurie, you can help me out with this. But my feeling is, from the outside looking in, you could have expected Port to come in emotionally charged for this match. And you could have expected them to come out of their gates because, they're a fast-starting side. We all saw what they did to Richmond in the first final last year. Belted them, pillar to post. Hawthorn, the first time they played them this year, absolutely came out roaring. So when you add in that emotional content, right, this should have been expected, I think, by the coaching staff. And I don't think enough was done, at least early on, to counteract that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think, largely to do when you're talking about Port Adelaide game, I feel like probably the younger side of Collingwood may have just got a little bit ahead of themselves. The first quarter, I just felt like, when we've come so close to 2 top sides in Fremantle and Hawthorn, that they maybe just thought, it's going to happen. We're just going to go through the motions and we're going to win this game.
Yeah.
And it really caught them off guard. And, it was credit to the Pies, I think, in all games, because they've been able to get it back on their terms for majority of the game. And I think that's these honourable losses and that everything we talk about. I think at the end of the day, the thing that I've been pleased with is we've been, for large portions of the game, we've been able to get the game on our terms. And I think moving forward, that's where the improvement's really going to come from. But yeah, I think the Port Adelaide game just showed that we were probably just a little bit too ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. And look, I think you can certainly see elements of that, I guess, in the way we approached it. But I think there should be a bit of not a warning sign for the coaches, so to speak, but, we do generally, we have started games this year quite slowly. We did let Geelong kick out to a good lead. Adelaide did the same to us, and now Port have. We really can't give up those sorts of starts. We've still got to win 4 more games to make finals, maybe even a 5th, depending on how things go around us. So that should still be the priority. And it's certainly something that, as you say, a young side that's developing nicely still probably needs to work on. Last thing, Magpie Girl, there was a late change in the Port game that was a little bit controversial. Marley Williams coming out, Grundy going in. What were your thoughts on that when it happened? Do you think it had an effect on the game?
Well, I think we really missed Marley, although they said that for that. But I did notice when Jordan De Goey had to come on for a little while with Foster being injured. I thought he made a difference in those first few minutes, or in the 20 minutes or so that he was out there. He just added a bit of run and made a bit of an impact in the time that he was allowed to be on the field.
And as you were saying, when De Goey came on, that's we started gaining a bit of ascendancy. We had a bit more run.
Yeah. So look, there was a lot of criticism for playing. We certainly missed Broomhead going off. That was another runner that we couldn't use. So yeah, I think we missed out there in the conditions that ended up prevailing for the game. I mean, it was a absolutely ghastly night, and I don't know. There's so much criticism over being too many tools, but I mean, our tools are pretty mobile, and certainly Grundy is. I don't know. What did you think?
Look, I think that obviously with the situation the way it was.
Just before you answer, can I just ask, how many tools did Port Adelaide have? I mean, were we playing tool on tool, or?
The thing with Port Adelaide this year has been that they've got Ryder, Lobby, and Westhoff as their three main tools, but two of those guys are incredibly athletic. Their backline is fairly small from a key position point of view. I believe the two key defenders were 195 or 193 centimetres, respectively, which is Frost and Goldsack size.
I think we missed Goldsack too, really, last week.
Because as a general down back, I think his presence has been missed because he's a very steadying presence and force with his experience. Look, my thought simply was that it just seemed like a bit of an oversight that we knew that perhaps Marley wouldn't be in the team. We didn't bring someone like a Marsh or a Sinclair across with us to fill that void in the event that he went out. And look, bringing in a ruckman in those wet conditions, I'm sure that down the track the plan was to substitute one of the big men off, whether it would have been Moore or Witts or Grundy. At some point there would have been a substitute, tall for a small. But the peril of the sub rule is that if you get an injury, it has to happen. And unfortunately, we were left, as you said, with Broomhead coming off, which was so unfortunate. We went a runner down and we had an extra tall playing around the ground. I mean, I would have preferred that Moore didn't have to revert to playing as a tall defender in his second game of AFL in such a crucial game. For me, it just seemed like there were other decisions that could have been made in terms of selection. Now, in saying that, with the exception of a bad first quarter, we were probably the better team for the rest of the night. And by and large, that would probably indicate that the selection wasn't a bad one. But given the way it all panned out with Broomhead's injury, had there been an extra small as opposed to a tall, we might have had the extra run to create that opportunity and score a late goal or to get some more ascendancy.
Yeah, look, they're all the ifs and buts, and you've just got to go with what they've. Look, they don't choose the team lightly, so. It's just the way the cards fell on the night, really. It's unfortunate. I mean, you don't expect any... Well, every game I suppose you allow for an injury, but at the same time you don't really expect it to happen. And it just happened to be Broomhead, rather than a tall player. So it's just the way it falls on the night, really.
That's right. And look, it's all done and gone now. There's nothing we can do to change it. But we get an opportunity this week to make amends. And I think the big thing is, it was obviously unfortunate what happened to Broomhead. He's going to miss this week.
I think he's out for 4 or 5, isn't he?
Yeah. So I mean, it almost could be it almost could be the season for him in the seniors, purely because you've got to get back and match fitness and probably a couple of games in the VFL. So it becomes a difficult task unless we make finals. And even then, it's going to be a tough team to break into because, as we spoke about last week, there's a fair bit of depth. But we get a chance this week. Obviously, Taylor Adams has gone out. What did you think of the incident? It was covered very heavily by Channel 7.
Oh, yeah, it was terrible the way it kept showing it and showing it and showing it. Look, obviously something had led up to it, and of course we don't see that. Watching it, I felt that the last knee was, the one that was one too many, and it was a bit undisciplined on his behalf. But again, we don't see the lead up. We don't know what the niggle's been all night. But at the same time, he's got to learn to show a bit of control. So,
this will be a learning experience for him. I think that's part of growing into the leader that I think he'll become. I think he's got good leadership credentials as a player. But it was a brain fade. It was a mistake. It was heat of the moment. I think he even said as much himself. It was in the moment of the game, and he got caught up in it. And unfortunately, we're going to miss his presence.
We are going to miss him. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But we do get a suitable replacement. Levi Greenwood playing his first game for the club. We'll quickly run through the ins and outs for this week. So Adams, Broomhead, Darcy Moore.
Not Broomhead, Ben Kennedy. Oh, you're talking about the outs. I beg your pardon.
No, the outs.
Sorry.
Yes, sorry, that's all right. So Moore, Broomhead, Adams, and I believe Jamie Elliott going out with a slight injury. So might be a little bit undermanned in terms of our top end talent. But we've got Greenwood coming in.
We've got Ben Kennedy.
Ben Kennedy.
Everybody will be happy.
Well, the jungle drum's been beating for him. I'm probably one of his biggest supporters. If no one's noticed, have a look around the forum. But Paul Seaman gets a call up. So look, we're going to lose a couple of really important players. Adams and Elliott have been cornerstones to our success this year. Adams certainly through the middle. And whilst Elliott's been off for a couple of weeks, you now see that there might have been a little injury concern, and certainly goes a bit of a way to explaining a little bit of his dip in form. But Williams comes back in, and I think he's the really crucial one against a really dangerous West Coast team.
Yes, he was well missed last week, and it's great to have him back.
What are your thoughts about this weekend's game, Laurie? I mean, I know there's been some talk around the boards that this is the make or break game for us. I know we've still got over half a dozen rounds to go, and I don't think it's all that. It's certainly an important game, but losing it certainly isn't, in my opinion, the death knell. But how important would it be, maybe from a player's perspective, from a club perspective, to maybe get a win this weekend?
Yeah, well, I think realistically, every game's important with the evenness of the competition at the moment. It really is shaping like every week's just if you drop one game, you can really put yourself back. I guess West Coast, I'm a bit unsure about. From what I've seen, they've been really good, but them like us they've kind of, I don't want to say it, but they kind of played no one, and I just wonder when the stakes are up and when they've really got, when they're at their highest and when people are expecting them to do what a lot of people are talking about in the public is they're gonna beat us and they're gonna continue their aspirations for their top two's position or in the top four position. But I just wonder whether they're going to crumble under that or whether they're going to really thrive, because history would suggest that they're probably going to struggle in that area. But with guys like Shuey and Gaff coming through, they're probably at the right age now where they're really starting to peak. But I always felt like West Coast's biggest issue was their lack of depth in their midfield, but they seem quite strong in that area. And with Adams going out, that's my main concern really, is that we're going to get killed in the centre clearances, and that's going to hurt us.
I've watched the Weagles for a couple of years now, and I've really liked the way their list has come together, particularly from a personnel standpoint. As you said, they've really developed a depth in their midfield. Their key position players have always been a strength. But there is an element of
AFL bully boy about them. They seem to get on top of some really ordinary teams and just beat the living Jesus out of them. And they really have faltered, I guess, against probably the better teams. But wins kind of overshadow that sort of form. It's tough because this isn't a bad football team, the Eagles, and form and momentum are so critical in football today, and confidence. We saw what confidence did for Port Adelaide last year, carrying them to a prelim. And West Coast will run down to Melbourne this week. And they should feel confident about their ability to beat a team like Collingwood. I think for us, it's about stamping our authority early on the hard ball, and making them feel uncomfortable here at Etihad. Because otherwise, if the common theme I've seen with the Eagles is when they get what they want, when they get their ball on the outside and they spread, and they get some good deliveries inside 50, they have their way with teams. And we've been pretty good at restricting teams this season. We've really got to put the clamp down. I wonder if 3 big, heavy weeks, 3 tough games might have worn our young team out a little bit, and that's probably my main concern going into this week.
Well, that's going to happen as the season goes on, because we are a young team. And the Eagles, are they full strength at the moment?
Pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, they're obviously coming into this game overwhelming favourites. How do they normally go at Etihad? I mean, I hate us playing there. Have we won a game there yet?
I'm with you. I don't quite like us playing there. I don't quite like the idea of us playing a home game there. But look, I think that they're pretty comfortable playing here.
Maybe the cold will undo them. Coming from 20 degrees in Perth to 4 degrees here, that might be
yeah, the cold might unnerve them a little bit. Well, I think that and they should. They deserve to come into this game raging hot favourites. But I don't think we deserve to be discounted. It is going to be a tough game. Whether or not it defines our season remains to be seen. I think the game next week against the Dogs is really the season definer, depending on how we go this week. 2 teams that in a very similar position with their list rebuilding.
I don't expect us to win this week, given West Coast form up till now. But I'll be happy if I see them, play the match out. I know it'll be another honourable loss, but or it might be, but there is something in that, and it's a stepping stone to actually winning those games. As much as I hate seeing us lose, but yeah, at the very least, you want to see 100% effort for 100% of the game.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. What about you, Laurie? What are you expecting out of this week?
Yeah, look, I was much more confident with the Port Adelaide game. I wasn't going into it confident, but I certainly picked the Pies over there and thought they would win. I'm tipping West Coast in a close one. However,
I always tip Collingwood, Laurie.
No, I don't. That's why I'm second on the ladder, remember?
That's why I'm...
J-Max got me, though.
I think I'm page 3.
Yeah. But, I think it'll be close either way. I don't think... I think early, if we really focus on our KPIs, our contested ball footy, I think we will be able to take them to the line. I do worry that they're going to have too much firepower in the middle, but at the same time, I think the Eagles are vulnerable, and I think we can actually beat them over here. The sobering thing, I think I posted it on one of I don't know which thread it was, but the sobering thing for me, thinking about the game, was the only team they've beaten of any note in the top 8 is Richmond, and that was over here, but it was some time ago, and I don't think Richmond were going that well at the time. And if you think about it in those terms, we've beaten no one in the top 8 either, outside of GWS. But if you put that in perspective, the Eagles really they haven't played Hawthorn or Sydney. They got flogged by Fremantle in their derby. So I think it will be a lot closer than some people may think, but still tipping West Coast in a close one.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, guys. It should be a good chance for us to come out and certainly continue to show the AFL world that we are not the afterthought that everyone else thought we were.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Well, I'd just like to mention a couple of things on the board. A reminder to listen to the Taylor Adams interview if you haven't done so already, because it was fantastic. Yeah. I'm sure most people know by now that our very dearly beloved poster, Reykjavik, has passed away recently. And there's a beautiful thread side by side with him, and I encourage everybody to read his message in post 108. And in honour of him, the employment and career guidance thread has been bumped, and that's just an opportunity for people to sort of mention what they do and how they can help others, which is something that Ray was very good at doing. So those couple of threads will be sticky to the top of the board soon, but they're just there for people to look at and read and contribute to.
Absolutely. Now, our thoughts and prayers go out to his family and all those on the boards that knew Reykjavik well. And
absolutely, it's very, very sad to hear of his passing.
Absolutely, it's always a shame to lose someone who I think did have quite a profound impact on people on the forum and the board, and it's he'll be sorely missed. Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to end this evening. Thank you, Magpie Girl, for coming on and all your kind words and your contributions tonight. I thoroughly appreciate it.
Thanks, Mighty T. Just one other thing, the VFL, we didn't mention last week, but unfortunately they had a loss in horrible conditions, but they are playing this week down at Frankston Park for everybody who lives down that area or wants to make the drive. So that's there for people to go see.
Yeah, definitely get down if you can.
It's on Sunday, this week, Sunday at 2:00.
Sunday at 2:00. Get down if you can. Wouldn't mind hearing a good VFL report and hopefully reporting back a strong win after a quite an unfortunate loss.
Yeah, and thanks to Maggie Bat for putting those threads up every week and keeping everybody updated on the VFL. He does a great job.
Absolutely, he and Shoepie are really brilliant contributors to VFL and really cover it quite comprehensively. So it's good to have some informed people who are down there and obviously ardent watchers and willing to share their thoughts in the game day thread. So keep up the good work, guys. I also want to. Sorry about that. I also want to thank Laurie, who reluctantly came on and has contributed tonight. Thanks, mate. It's great to have you on and having a bit of a chat, and hopefully we get to hear a bit more from you in the future.
Thank you. I hope the red wine rambling wasn't too bad, but I did go out for some evening drinks with the colleagues, so apologies for that. But I've enjoyed it, and thank you.
Good. Thanks a lot, Laurie. And no need to apologise. We didn't suspect a thing.
Nothing like a couple of beverages before a nice podcast. But until next week, this is the Mighty T signing up.
Okay, my round 16 rant is going to be about the match review panel. And it's just how weird it is. It's a chook raffer, really. When you get someone like Gibbs, who gets 2 weeks for a sling tackle, the next week Schultz gets it and he gets off scot-free. So I dare say it helps that they were playing Collingwood the next week helps a lot. And then this week we have Adams, who did a stupid knee drop and got probably the worst punishment you get was 2 weeks. And you have Joel Selwood, who's trying to break Sam Wright's shoulder, or at least hyperextend it, gets 1 week. Gosh, so then you have Buddy and Tipper getting 1 week for basically Franklin just running through a bloke. Then you have Tippett hooking, at least a straight elbow, but it looks like a punch to a Richmond player's face, and they both get a week. That's pathetic. Then you have Mitchell, who goes around giving everyone corkies. He always goes for the good players and gives them the corky, and it's, well, first of all, it was just unsociable football. BS. He was doing it on purpose. That's pretty pathetic. And then you have Fife, who collects, I think it was Duray, with an elbow to the head, and he gets a fine. Well, it helps that he's a Brownlow favourite, and a lot of people would have money on Fife to win the Brownlow, and they don't want people to piss money away. And Mitchell, finally got a fine, but still, what he's doing deserves more than a week. He's a little dirty sniper, did it on purpose. Alright, that's my rant, so hopefully you like it, and I'll see you next week.